I went to the back mountain for on-site inspection. But when I came back, I found that my daughters were holding a funeral for me. After inquiring about the reason, it turned out to be just a misunderstanding between them and me. 2 days later, the Silver Dragon Queen woke up, but she felt her body was very tired. When she thought I had already escaped, my appearance surprised her. After seeing Muen off the room, I decided to explain my plan to her. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Noah and Muen immediately turned their heads and found their father standing behind them. They looked at him with surprise on their faces. Leon, Noah and Muen looked at each other in disbelief. Muen pointed his finger at Leon and said in surprise, "Ah, Dad has appeared." Leon stood behind Noah and Muen, shocked to see his black and white photo placed on the table. He looked down at them awkwardly and asked what was going on. "My dear daughters, I just went out for a day. Is it too hasty to hold my funeral now?" Muen looked carefully and confirmed that the person in front of her was her father. Her eyes couldn't help but be filled with tears. She said to him with a crying tone, "Dad." Then, Muen pounced directly into Leon's arms. She burst into tears while tightly embracing his body, reluctant to let go of him. "Wah! Dad is back! Wah!" Leon was at a loss for words at Muen's sudden crying and clinging to him. He wondered what had happened this day to make her feel so sad. "I thought Dad didn't want Muen anymore." Muen looked up at him with tears in her eyes, feeling aggrieved. She thought she would never see her father again. He reached out and gently touched Muen's head, soothing her emotions. He looked at her with a smile and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? How could Dad ever not want you?" When Noah saw Leon standing in front of her, she seemed to know that she had done something wrong. She misunderstood that Leon would abandon them and run away. She dared not look up at him. She looked away from him and awkwardly said to him, "Muen and I searched for you several times in the castle, but we didn't see you. I thought you had already left." Leon lifted his head and explained to Noah with a smile, "Haha, how could Dad leave? I just went for a walk in the back mountain today." Noah silently took down the small box placed on the table and held it in her arms. She lowered her head and looked at the box, feeling an indescribable emotion in her heart. She silently said in her heart, "So, I misunderstood him." The dragon maids were still surprised by Leon's sudden appearance. Some of them were looking at him in silence, curious as to where he appeared from, and some of them seemed to have realized that it was just a misunderstanding. As soon as Leon picked up Muen in his arms, he comforted her while addressing the dragon maids around him. "It's all right. Everyone can leave now." After receiving Leon's order, all the dragon maids left the lawn one after another. Without much explanation, they also realized that this was actually just a misunderstanding. Once the mood had stabilized, Muen pointed to the steak on the table and whispered to Leon, "Dad, you're back. Can Muen eat your tribute?" Leon didn't know what to say for a moment. Although he didn't really leave them, nor did he really pass away. This passage from Muen made him feel like he had been resurrected from the dead. He said helplessly to her, Of course." "Yeah." After obtaining Leon's consent, the expression on Muen's face changed from sadness to joy. She came out of Leon's arms and happily rushed to the table. She brought the steak down and ate it with relish. Watching her happily eat her favorite food, Leon secretly laughed in his heart. "Muen is so greedy. She definitely isn't like me." At this moment, Noah, who had been quiet for a long time, said to Leon expressionlessly, "Next time you go out alone, remember to tell us." Leon turned his head and looked at her with some confusion. He had just been so busy comforting Muen that he now realized that now he hadn't figured out exactly what had happened tonight, or why everyone had gathered around to give him what looked like a funeral. Noah lowered her head and dared not look into his eyes. Her face seemed to blush with embarrassment. She muttered awkwardly, "Muen, she's very worried about you." Leon heard something from Noah's words. Although she said that Muen was worried about him, he actually knew that Noah also cared about him, but he didn't dare to directly express his own feelings to him. He smiled helplessly, reached out and scratched his head, apologizing to her. "Sorry for making Muen worry." He silently evaluated Noah's behavior in his heart. This child looks worried about me, but still feels embarrassed to say it out. Noah slowly lowered her head. She frowned, as if thinking about something. Then, she lifted her head and looked at Leon with serious eyes. "Anyway, this is my fault. It's because I didn't trust you." "Sorry." Noah slightly bowed to Leon, apologizing for her series of doubts about him. Since it's her own fault, she must have the courage to admit it. Leon was startled by her movements and took a small step back. This is the first time he has seen Noah apologize to him so solemnly. She kept looking down at the ground like this, as if she wouldn't raise her head without Leon's forgiveness. Leon watched as she lowered her head and tightly grasped the figure of the small box, silently analyzing Noah's current situation in his heart. Was their farewell ceremony due to her misunderstanding? As long as she doesn't say anything, no one will know. He looked at Noah with a smile. In fact, he has already forgiven her mistakes in his heart. For a mature child like Noah, he could understand how she was feeling at this moment. It's also true that precocious children always consciously take on their own responsibilities and mistakes. But ultimately, this misunderstanding was due to my failure to give her enough sense of security. Leon also thinks that he is still not doing enough on the father's side. Noah is still a child at the end of the day, and she still needs her family to love her. But the lack of security makes her wary of Leon. Noah yearns for family and love, but will not take the initiative to take a step forward. Even if I promise her something now, she probably won't easily believe me. Leon silently clenched his fist and made a decision. He wanted to prove this part of his fatherly love to Noah. He hopes she can believe him. Therefore, as her father, all I can do is slowly prove with practical actions that I will always be by your side. He squatted in front of Noah, reached out and gently touched her head, comforting her not to blame herself too much. "It's okay. Let's go have dinner together. You still have to go to school tomorrow. After receiving Leon's forgiveness, Noah looked up at him and nodded. She tightly grasped the box in her hand again and didn't let go anymore.
Hey! Have you heard about it? SF Light Novel is going to share a new comic. I have already shared a new comic. The name of this comic is The Blonde-Haired Villain. In Girl Overlord novel, also longs for happiness. I have already shared the relevant content of this comic in this video. You can click on this video to learn about the comic story and character information. If you are interested, you can subscribe to my channel and wait for the sharing of new comic.